Hello, my beautiful souls. Thank you so much for watching Gigi Spot. So a couple things I just want to kind of say before we get started with the video. So these videos are two parts. It's so much information that I had to break it up in two. I will have timestamps in the description below for everyone, so you can move forward or backward as you want to as you go along. And I just wanted to make sure that you get the most real and authentic version of this me. So I am not going to do a whole lot of editing. You won't see a lot of edits. I may be repeating words and saying things, and so that's just me processing the information that I'm giving to you guys as authentically as I can. So please forgive me if I repeat words. Some things I do say too are understandings in the congregation, and you may not quite understand. I will try to clarify certain words I say as I go, but ultimately that's just the language or the lingo that we have in the congregations, and just I think that's really it. I just wanted to pop in and say those things so you know, and let's get started. I appreciate you guys coming with me. Let's do this. This is my story. Welcome you guys to Gigi Spot. I'm Gigi. I was one of the Jehovah Witnesses, and I'm going to share with you guys my story of why I left the Jehovah Witness faith. I can only share with you my personal experience and journey, and this is not to say that everyone who's in the Jehovah Witness faith has a similar experience as mine. So I say that to say, again, if you're not ready to hear what I have to say about my perspective and my personal experience during this particular religion, then you probably want to go ahead and not watch this, out of love and respect. For those who are ready to walk with me on this journey, ready to understand a little bit more into my world, I'm going to be sharing with you why I left the Jehovah Witness faith. I grew up in the religion since of the age of 4. My mom, she became into the religion when she was younger, around 18. She got baptized, and then she met my father. He's not my biological father, but she met my father. He became an elder in the congregation when I was young. So we were trained at a very young age how to behave as Jehovah's Witnesses and what is expected. We were taught at a very young age what's expected of us in this religion. I decided to leave the religion when I came to an awakening, and this was age 33. So I was in religion from the age 4 to 33 years old. Yeah, it's been a journey. When going to school, we couldn't do certain things. It was always a given. Even right before we go to school, we were always taught certain things, like we don't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. We're not going to be participating in any holidays, and that means we're not going to, at Halloween, even get candy. We're not going to participate in the parties that they have. So it was like we always had the knowing that we were going to be, pretty much different from other kids, because the things that normal kids or other kids would be doing in school, we were not able to do. Certain things we just knew we weren't going to be able to do. And it was always one of those things where I had to prepare myself mentally for school, where especially the beginning of the year and stuff, when you're first getting into class, my mom would have talks with the teachers and tell them that I couldn't do certain things. And then when the Pledge of Allegiance, of course, they did it every beginning of the class, and I would just be so scared. I just remember, I would just be like, oh gosh, okay, so I can't stand up for the pledge. But they were allowed to stand but not put our hands. You can put your hands over. You couldn't put your hands over your chest, but we're allowed to stand. out of, respect, or just sit down. And so it was really kind of a conscious decision, but I was just I felt so like scared that I was going to stand out and be talked about, and I'll have to talk to people about why I don't do Pledge Allegiance. And I really didn't really know much about why at a younger age. As I grew older, I had an understanding of the reason why that Jehovah's Witnesses don't stand to pledge, because we are supposed to only give exclusive devotion to Jehovah God. And so that was the reasoning behind not standing up for Pledge Allegiance or saying the pledge, because we don't, we're not giving that allegiance to the government, but to our God only. And so, but as a young child, didn't know that, to a degree. It was explained to me, but I really didn't truly understand. So I really was fearful still of the peer pressure, the pressure that you have in school with kids. It was difficult having to face that every year. And then, of course, around holiday times, when, you see other kids getting gifts and they come to school and new clothes and stuff, we weren't getting that. So that was something that we had to deal with. I had to deal with as a child. And, like certain parties or Halloween time when they did the parades, I couldn't participate in that. I had to sit in class. Of course, they had to put on, even on our permission slip, you always had to put no blood on the permission slip, because to be specific, because they had the medical directives. And so that was something I remember Mom always putting up there. And I just remember that certain activities, even field trips, if we were going to certain places that, like, if we were going to a military camp or something like that, anywhere that's military related or government related, we couldn't participate in that. Any holiday type of field trip, that was not going to happen, so we couldn't do that, so we couldn't participate in that. So it was just a knowing as a child that I wasn't going to be able to do certain things. And that definitely affected me as a child, I would say, because it, it kind of makes you feel isolated. It makes, for me, it made me feel isolated. It made me feel like, I definitely am different. And I always had to be ready to defend myself for why I couldn't do these things, because kids would ask, or they would joke me, or they would say things. And it just wasn't really the best experience with that as a child. But, it was something that I knew it wasn't a choice. This is what this is my religion. This is what we believe. So I did my best in certain cases, and others, sometimes I would hide. I could honestly remember as I got older, in elementary and middle school, just throughout school really, when we were going door to door, I would be so scared. I would just be so nervous, because I was like, I hope I don't see anybody from school. Oh my goodness, I hope I don't see anybody from school, because we would go knock on the doors and give presentations. And I do remember a couple times I would be trying to hide, how can I hide in the door? I'll just be hiding behind certain people so that, my face couldn't be seen or no kids could see me. I know sometimes I would see some kids and they would say, ain't you one of the girls who was going, door to door? Or, they'll ask questions, and I didn't really know how to answer a lot of those questions. And also I remember one time I actually went to the door, and one of my friends at school, she came to the door, and we weren't close friends or anything, but she was just an acquaintance. I'll say an associate. She was another schoolmate, and she came to the door, and she actually listened to what I had to say, and I felt relieved a little bit. I was like, oh my God, she didn't, choke me or anything. So that felt kind of okay. And at certain points throughout my childhood, I believed that this was, I've always believed in my heart, because I was taught that this was the one true religion. So I tried my best to be faithful in this religion and be loyal to this religion. But as a kid, it's difficult, because you have peer pressure. You have a lot of things going on at school, and it can be very hard and it could be scary, with all that going on, and have to explain things. So that was definitely one of the experiences I can remember as a child. But as far as the family dynamic, it was just a given. Like, most of our lives was centered around this religion. So as a child, when I come from school, I had to make sure I do my studies for the meetings. We had at that time meetings on Monday nights, which was our Bible studies. We had meetings on Wednesday nights, which was our theocratic ministry school, and service meeting. And then on Sundays, we of course had our public talks. And then Saturdays was the day, we go out for the service. So you're thinking that's already 4 days out the week. And then you have your personal study with your family. And then on top of that, you have to study for these meetings. So it's like our whole lives is centered around the Kingdom Hall, around the religion. It's not really a lot of time to, we have time to be kids in a sense, and we'll have time to go outside and play and stuff, but it was always limited because, you got to get back in and study for the meeting or study for the Bible study, or, you got to get in and do some reading. Did you do some Bible reading? So, it's always something. Even when we went out field service, we had to prepare for that, and dress up and get up early in the mornings. And, so it was just something that I lived years doing in my life. And so, again, everything is centered around, our lives are just centered around this religion. And I ran away, and I remember it was rough. It was hard out there. And I made the decision because I missed my family so much. I was just, I was lost. I didn't know myself. I was young. So I made the decision to come back. And so this time when I came back, I knew that I wanted to really go full-fledged in and try to really put my all into this religion. And so that's what I did. I got married to my boy's father, and I did it the right way. And I went full force ahead in this religion to give it a go. Because ultimately I was trained at the age 4 years old that this was the one only true religion. This was the religion that I would be saved in. This is a religion completely different from any other. And I truly believed in my heart that this was that religion that really was on the road for salvation of God. So I wanted to make sure I did things right this time. So I went back and I was just 100% dedicated. And I raised my boys in this religion. And I remember before I actually, when I got married, after I got married, I decided to go ahead and get baptized because I wanted to dedicate my life to Jehovah. I wanted to dedicate my life to God. And I felt that this was it. This was the right path. And I was ready to go. And I jumped full force, dedicate myself, and made sure that I lived the path of righteousness from that point on. Now, during this time, it became really hard because my husband was not part of the religion. So me being in this religion and us thinking certain ways, we have plenty of people in the religion who may have what you call unbelieving spouses, or spouses who are unbelievers, or worldly spouses, whatever we call it at that time. We have had those cases. And of course, we're always talked about. It's always made seem as, it's always going to be hard. We do the best we can to have peace. But it's a struggle. And so I did experience a struggle with my husband at the time, with me in the religion, trying to go full force, and it just was clashing. We came to a point where we just were not compatible anymore. We had to go our separate ways. So during this point in time, I was raising 2 boys by myself. I was a single mother, raising my kids and raising them in this religion. And I knew how it was as a child, hard in school, having to deal with the separation that we're different. And I knew that I would have to prepare my children for that too. So I did my best to, prepare them for this and try to deal with everything the best way I could, because I felt this was the religion and we were going to be saved. So I focused on my kids for years, didn't even focus on myself. And I was celibate for a long, long time. So, that's pretty much what it was. And what most people don't really know about Jehovah's Witnesses is that just about every aspect of our lives is controlled. We are really taught how to talk. We're taught how to look, how to dress. Our mannerisms are pretty much practiced, and we're constantly it's like a school for real. It's like a school of the way to be, the way to live, what's acceptable in God's eyes. It's like, Monday nights is the Bible study, or constantly, it's repetition that gets it. Repetition, I really can truly say that this religion is truly organized and very good at controlling everything we think about, what we do, every aspect of our lives. And it's presented in a way that this is acceptable for us, because we're training ourselves to be acceptable to God. We're training ourselves to program our minds, hearts, to think a certain way, to be a certain way, because this is the way that's approved by God. And one of the things I've always been told is that everything is based on the Bible. All the scriptures, everything that we're told, everything we're done is biblical based. And we do use the scriptures a lot in this religion. We use quotes from the scriptures. And we're encouraged to read and do our research, right? But what I come to find out later on, when I really started digging, is that we only encouraged to do research within the publications that they approve. So Jehovah's Witness-based publications. We're not encouraged to step outside that. It has to be the publications that they present. We're encouraged to do our research and test the faith, because they already done the research for us. And I always found that kind of weird, because in our watchtowers, in our wakes, in our publications, there would be inserts of facts from encyclopedias, or facts from the news, or quotes from other people and things like that. And so at some point, it's very clear that the information that's in the information you give us, you had to do research outside of the Jehovah's Witness publications, and you put it inside these approved publications. So why would we not be able to do our research? Why can't we go out and do the research that we need to make sure that everything's aligned? Because if it's just the truth, it doesn't matter where I go. If this is the truth, it's always going to come back to the fact that this is the truth. That's what I truly believe. But again, that's not what we're taught. We have to get up on Sundays, depending on when our meeting was. Always get up, and you need to make sure you study Saturday night for that meeting so you can comment. You better have at least one comment that you learn from the meeting. And we go to the meetings on Saturday, there's a public talk. What's the public talk about? How we should look, how we should live. Whatever that subject is, it's talking about our lifestyle. It's talking about why we should be doing what we do for approval of God. What is God's approval? What does God expect? What does Jehovah expect? Why does certain things is the way it is? So everything was really pretty much, it was always a reason for everything. No rated R movies. No, you can't date outside the faith. Why? Because the Bible says this. Let's look at the scripture. The Bible says to only marry in the Lord. It's just so much control over our lives. Literally. I was very good at basketball as a girl, and I was tall for my age. So, coaches would try to recruit me, and that was a no. No, because that's too much time you're spending after school with worldly people. No. And so I was not able to be part of the sports. It was just a given. I was not able to be part of different activities after school. And this is the thing too to keep in mind. Not every Jehovah's Witness does everything exactly the same. There's certain laws and there's certain principles that the brothers, the people in the congregation go by. And so it's really a lot of the things is and I feel like that's how they play it safe. They really are telling you what to do, but they're telling you it's a principle, so you have to make your decision on your own. But really, we have a blueprint of how we're supposed to be. And if you have parents like my parents, they follow the blueprint to the T. So there's no wavering in and out. So no being a part of the world, there'll be talks that talked about, so what does that mean with kids? What about extracurricular activities? Will they be spending more time with worldly kids, and would that be the best for them? So it's like suggestions that are made in the congregation of how you should do things, right? Not that it's in the Bible, but this is how a person who is loyal to Jehovah should act or should do. So it's more recommendations or suggestions, but really what it was is a blueprint of how we supposed to act, talk, speak, be, who we're supposed to associate with, who we're supposed to be with. It was all a blueprint. It was all a control of what or how we should live our lives. And my parents followed it to the T. And again, I always go back to say Jehovah's Witnesses are not bad people. They really want to do the best that they can. We're even taught not to carry guns, so no, you wouldn't find Jehovah's Witnesses with any guns in their house. We were really just wholesome people, but unfortunately, when it comes to the freedom of making your own choices, if you choose to step outside of what they said, you're really not being approved. So you're stuck in a box of what you should do. And if you peek outside the box, then you really are looked at as being disapproved or going against, what, the Bible says, even though it's not really in the Bible, And after a while, I started realizing that, there's levels to how Jehovah's Witnesses are. My parents were at the level where they were following every suggestion and, everything that the brothers were suggesting to do or not to do. That's what we were doing, because that was, what it entailed to really truly be faithful. And so I just didn't have a lot of free will or choice. And so that's why at a young age, when I was young and I met, someone I really liked and just fell for, I wanted to be able to date. I wanted to be able to love who I wanted to love. And it just wasn't fair to me that I had to be stuck in this situation, or it wasn't fair to me that I couldn't do that. And so, that was just something that really, looking back on it, was traumatizing in a sense too. I mean, it was a lot. So, and a lot of people just don't understand that that's what goes into this religion, And then you think about careers. So for careers, we're encouraged. Now, keep in mind, it's always an encourage, right, or recommendation. And again, but what you have to understand is what is the culture. So even though certain things are not in the Bible, they would use certain scriptures to justify why they're encouraged as not to do things, and having money and pursuing money was one of those things that just was looked down upon as Jehovah's Witnesses. There was examples that were given of people come and give testimonies of how they quit their jobs and they went to something simple because they wanted to pursue God and be in the ministry full time. And really looking back on it, it's like you guys were really trying to create workers. You were trying to create so many people going in and recruiting and converting people that you're suggesting that we even it's like a recruitment. We're encouraged not to go to college for real, because, and I honestly, to this day, I do believe truly that college should be a choice. It shouldn't be the end all say all. I do believe that you can be successful without college. So I do believe that, but if I wanted to go and I wanted that choice, I should be able to do that without feeling guilty or feeling like I'm, going in the opposite direction of salvation. I shouldn't have to feel that way, but that's how it was presented to us. So it's a culture, it's a knowing in this religion. The knowing is that you don't really want to go to college and spend all this time there. What you should be doing is trying to work towards being a full-time ministry so we can convert and save as many people before the end comes. And that is what is encouraged. That's the knowing. But of course, again, if we ever ask them, no, you can go to college, you can go, and but again, if it's like if if you're trying to please. Like for us, it's kind of like for instance, if you're trying to please your mom or dad, they want you to be a person, right? It's not like they may say, well, you don't have to, but this is really what you need to be. And so you're going to listen. You're going to, in that culture, when they're suggesting that this is the way to salvation, we're going to follow that. We're going to be like, well, we don't need to go to college. And it persuades us to not follow our dreams. For me, I would say it persuaded me not to really follow my path or dream and ambition in the world of trying to make money there or pursue wealth. That was not encouraged, And so that was just the way of life. When it came to government jobs, certain government jobs we can't even take because it's being part of the world. Any jobs that has to deal with the military, that's a no-no. We're not going to be participating in war. And there were so many brothers that got put in jail because even when they had, if you couldn't go to war, or in some countries will have it where you do like civil work. I think I'm saying it right, I'm not for sure. But if I'm not, I'll put it in the description. And in certain places, they were telling these brothers to not even do that. You can't do it. So they were sitting in jail, brothers. Sitting in jail for years or months to years because they're refusing to even do civil work, and it's just, we sacrifice so much because we feel like this is the way to salvation. And looking back on it is just so unnecessary to do. And it's just almost criminal to me that you're taking away our lives, our freedom, our choice. Because if our choice is you go do your own thing or you serve God and you get saved, who's going to choose to go do their own thing? I mean, we feel pressured. Who's going to be choosing, like if I go and choose the life of my own, then I'm not approved by God. And that's really what we're faced to, the choice. This is the true religion. What we say, what we're instructing you is for your benefit so you can be saved. The end is coming near. What good is it going to be to go look for another job? A job that's going to pay you anything when it's all going to be gone anyways. These are the things we're told. You know what I'm saying? And we're looked upon when we are trying to pursue a career that may not be in accordance to, what this religion would say we should be doing. Or if we look for a career that may not allow us to put more time and effort into serving God in this religion. So looking back on it now, I'm just like, wow. Every aspect controlled. And one of the things too that I can truly say that Jehovah's Witnesses are definitely known for is sticking together. We do everything together. Since you definitely can't have any worldly friends, we're certainly isolated and we're led to believe that we're different. We're taught that we are held by a higher standard. So this is why we don't associate with worldly people. This is why we don't want to influence ourselves to think differently. We need to always be hanging around other people who think just like we think because we're all being programmed the same way. In essence, we're all being taught the same thing. So then we should only be associated with each other, encouraging each other. And again, it sounds all great and everything. You know what I'm saying? It's like we were such a close, every congregation is close. We go to skate parties. I remember growing up, I would go to skating parties, all Jehovah's Witnesses. There would be gatherings, only Jehovah's Witnesses. Cookouts for the congregation. When we were going to movies or something, it would be with my friends who were Jehovah's Witnesses. Everything we do, traveling, vacations, only with Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just a serious, tight-knit community of thousands of people. And I've been in this religion since I was 4, so I know so many witnesses in the religion. That's all I knew. Everyone I grew up with is witnesses. So I really just did not know anything else other than that. I mean, I would go to school, of course, public school, and talk to people. And I would have this, I would form some friendships, but it couldn't go past just school. Like, my friends couldn't call my house. They couldn't come over and spend the night if they weren't witnesses. That wasn't going to happen. So I had to always keep people at a distance to a degree, because I knew that I was different, and I knew that they would not be able to come into the religion unless they were Jehovah's Witnesses. So I had a choice of trying to teach them or witness to them, so that could convert them in and bring them in, and they could be a Jehovah's Witness. Because again, we're taught that we want to, because we want to save as many people, right? So, we're always taught, especially as children, to do informal witnessing. It's always pressure. Like, now looking back on it, it's always, grilled in us, always to teach people about the Bible, or teach people what the religion say, bring people in. I mean, as a child, we're taught that in school. We're given publications. They have young people ask publications that are addressed to young people, how you should handle things. So it's like this organization is so organized on how to control every aspect of us that they have books for young kids. They even, before I left, had videos for little children of what you should say when you got to celebrate holidays, how to explain certain things. We have so much information in every aspect of our life, as child, as a baby, as children, as an adult, as a teenager. What should we do? What should we say? How should we act? We're constantly bred in this religion. We're constantly taught how to act and be. And we really can't think for ourselves, to be honest. And we really usually, it's a place that we usually just, and I think for me, I just felt like I was doing what's right. I just felt like I was serving God by following all the rules in the Bible and trying to learn and, do things. But I still, there was a part of me that I still felt like I couldn't be completely free. I had to still do everything I was told and do things by the Bible book, and it's just, that's all I knew. It's great to be part of something, right? And I have to say that I was part of a family, a big family of people, but it was only if I was in this religion. Because I saw many times before people were disfellowship. I didn't know why. I mean, there were rumors, of course, about different people being disfellowship and stuff. We always talked about it and had rumors around, but no one knew for sure why they were kicked out of the congregation. All we knew is we just couldn't talk to them anymore. So it's like, if you're not in this community, you're not worthy. You're in the world. And how it was presented to me, to be honest, how my parents always presented to me was people who left the truth, they always went down. Like, their health went down. They financially were struggling. They were not doing good because they didn't have the backing of Jehovah anymore. So they were just out there in the world. And I always viewed witnesses who left like that. I was like, oh my God, they're probably doing so bad. They're probably not even able to live or survive out there. And that's a fear. It's instilled so that we don't want to go out there. It's so strategic now that I think about it. But it's everything is, it's like, it almost reminded me of the movie called The Village, where they did certain things. They had that creature to scare people from not going outside the village. You know what I'm saying? It's like this organization has tactics in place that either you don't want to go because you feel like God's going to not, he's not going to love you anymore. He's not going to approve of you. Or you're scared to go out there because you're told that out there there's nothing. There's nothing out there but heartache, pain, and sadness. And so who wants to go to that? And that you're not going to have the support of the congregation. First and foremost, you're definitely not going to have the support. So that's definitely hard to chew on. That's hard to deal with, especially as a child growing up knowing that this is it. And I think at a point I was happy in this religion because I thought that I was doing what's right. But as I grew up and as I started realizing that I am different, I like to color outside the box. I don't like to stay in the box. I realized that this was not the religion for me. And that's when I just kind of led a double life for years. And I knew that it was pretty much time for me to go. And now that I think about it, I had to sit here and confess like I was a child. The whole process to me is just belittling, but I knew that in order for me to get past this, I had to come forth and repent. So what I'm about to tell you guys is something that you may not know, And it's something that you probably wouldn't expect, but it happens. And this is my story.